Hello YouTube, and welcome back to this beautiful Saturday evening, even though goodness knows what's going on outside, but I've heard it's just freezing cold outside, and so rather than waste some time spending outdoors, then we may as well just get started with the subject of tonight's video. Our second review slash reaction to episode 2 of Rosairo Vampire. Now, the last time we talked about this show, I kind of like I went over a little bit of my history with the show, and I talked in very brief details about things I liked, the many things I didn't particularly get or understood slash disliked. Actually, there wasn't really a great deal I technically remember disliking about it. There were really stupid decisions, but it wasn't enough to like completely ruin my experience. What might be different on the other end is how you guys might see this, because I know fine well that the whole reflecting the thing off the mirror, I'm not entirely sure if this will work out for the best in the long run, because I know fine well, and until I'm absolutely sure about actually playing this and not getting, you know, copyright striked or anything like that, then I'll have to look into that. However, by the time this goes out and people say to me it's absolutely fine to put the audio in this and I won't get struck or anything like that, and if I still feel very unconvinced about this, then we'll argue some more. If you smell what the Rock is cooking. Not too sure why I did that, it felt right. So with that being said, let's get started. Episode 2. Thunderbirds, I'll go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm probably going to have to like check to make sure this isn't like flipped or anything like that. So pause for 1 second. Actually, the more I think about it, there won't even be a problem with this because it'll be reflected off there anyway. Why didn't I think about that before? Jesus. Understand, wish to proceed, whatever. Let's see, there we go. Yeah, I just realised it'll be reflected off there, so you know what? Problem solved. Okay, thanks for reminding us. I mean, yeah, that's kind of true. Also, putting this aside for 1 second, yeah, realistically, what school even does that? It's just something that just. I know. Again, I know. It's slightly exaggerated, but the point still stands. I think anyway. They're literally. Oh yeah, I forgot. They also do this a lot. They just stare at each other. I think, again, for the sake of just killing as much time as possible. It's extremely BS. Oh yeah, that's right. Kurumu. That's who this is. Oh, right, okay, I see. Also, again, this is a point that just has to be said. Who in the right... I know well, actually, you know what? I don't know, but who in their right mind thought it was a good idea to draw somebody who had boobs this big? And what are they supposed to be like? What, 14, 15? It's, oh yeah, that's right. Because we know fine well that Skune is definitely 15, and I really do not exactly. I couldn't even begin to emphasize about who. Again, is this just a cultural thing, or is this just straight up the producers and all that? They're keeping things concealed that perhaps they don't want other people to know. Gee, I wonder if she turns out to be the villain. She needed to go to the roof just to think about that. You see, that could have been quite a funny fourth wall joke if they, like, built it up a little bit somehow. It's better than the comedy they actually go for, like, later on in the show. When they're not doing this, by the way. Yeah, listen, guys, I'm going to go into detail a little bit about this later, and because it does lead to some pretty serious problems this show has. If they weren't apparent already, but I'll go into that in a little bit more detail later on. There's one scene I think I kind of like remember in particular I want to describe where it's particularly bad, and I'm not entirely sure if it's in this episode or it's in a few episodes down the line. But it's maybe if I kind of like summed it up quite quickly, and just to emphasize how much the problem plagues the show. We'll get into that when the time comes. Substitute. It's been literally like one episode. Well, that's... I mean, I know Mr. Konome is supposed to be a secondary character at best, but you can think a little bit broader than Stephen King or Lewis Carroll on that. The Aristocats, perhaps Thomas O'Malley. At least... Also, what is it with this cliche in that when they're like in the middle of like a lecture and then the bell immediately rings? That's... Who came up with that? Because that's just a dumb idea. Okay, yeah, this is the... Does it involve subtlety or her magnetic personality or whatever? One stupid boy fell for her. Maybe it's... I'm not too sure if she was hanging around for the dialogue. Yeah, okay, a few little things I wanted, because of what's going to come up next. One of the problems that this show had, well, certainly this episode has, it wasn't so much of a problem in the last episode, but in the pacing, some things of this feel really, really drawn out. Like, we're at the half-minute mark, and all we've established is that some sort of, like, conflict between Skune and Mocha, a really dumb one, within this time frame, in all likelihood. Then we get introduced to Kumu. Kumu tries to ensnare, then she... It's kind of like, just like, the last two scenes about where Kumu and Mocha first meet, and then in the corridor. It feels like it's just two scenes just, like, played back-to-back. And Skune is just an idiot on two occasions, and to be honest, Kuumu's a bit of... Why would Kumu just reveal her plan in the middle of a corridor in front of everyone? Especially in front of Mocha. Like, why would you just tell your nemesis about what you're doing? It just raises too many questions. Speaking of questions being raised... Yeah, we're going to see what they mean by adults only second. So, actually, now that we're sort of like beyond that, actually, well, yeah, let's just talk about it very briefly right now. The fan service in the show, and in parts of the manga, it's a little bit over the top. It's very unrealistic how far they're going to go with this. I say go with this because in the first couple of episodes, things are quite normal and things are quite... You can watch it without feeling necessarily too, a little bit, creeped out a little bit, but there are moments, there are plenty of moments in the show where they really sort of like begin to really play on this, and it becomes... And I'll tell you why in a few episodes. I think it's like episode 5 I wanted to specifically talk about, because it was part of the reason why I wanted to watch this show again, and I was almost kind of like enthralled the first time I watched it, but I'll explain that down the line. Oh yeah, and also don't be too amazed by this revelation. Without wanting to give too much spoilers away, it goes nowhere. And I guess Team Rocket is blasting off again there. That's... why does she even need to transform again? She could pretty much... If she could push people from miles away out of a window anyway. Like... that's a good point. Why does she even need to have a rosary ripped off at all when she could do that? I don't understand exactly the problems I said about the consistency and all that, but... come on, at least have things that... I don't know. Fortunately, they don't die, I guess. Wow, that was... In fact, actually, I've got a better idea. Let me do this properly. Where's that guard down there? Oh, here it is. Fortunately enough, I need to, like... there we go. Second, and... I feel like I might need to pull this out again. We still got 7 minutes of this to go. Well, there you are, using some... What did I just say about consistency again? Yeah, Mocha, I don't want to like rush things or anything like that, because this is meant to be quite important, but some of us have got families to get home to. Come on, girl, just wrap it up and put a little bow on it. Hey, they used the same assets from last episode. Oh, and also this part. It's a bit late into the episode to start giving out backstory in that, because, again, not to like put an emphasis on this, but this goes absolutely nowhere. This is as far as this plot, this backstory goes. Or this plot. This isn't even a storyline or anything, because nothing happens. And this is where things get really stupid. Wait for it. You see, in some way, the humanitarian inside me sort of says that that's kind of a good thing to take away from this, is that everyone's sort of like capable of being one and the other. But again, we're gonna have to kind of like let's look at this episode through the perspective of what we've just witnessed. Kurumu specifically specifically set out to get Skune, even though she had a whole bunch of, let's call them suitors for what they're worth. And then we never see any of these, by the way. That's something they could have addressed. And then she decided that, well, by this show's reckoning, they were going to literally have sex with each other. And again, think about it like this. I mean, two minors, again, you knew that, well, one, it wasn't going to happen anyway, because again, it would make this series incredibly short. But then Kumu then sets out to kill both Skune and Mocha, and when Kumu's finally be giving a little bit of a taste of her own medicine in terms of, well, let's call it the violence that's outbreaked. And besides, even, hang on, if Kumu even knew that, Kumu knew that Mocha was a vampire in the first place, and it still seems like a really dumb idea to try and pick with someone who's the reputation of a vampire would be someone very menacing and very, very dangerous. So it's kind of, and I think the punishment should go a little bit further beyond just being kicked through a couple of trees. Maybe not quite as severe as, you know, ripping off tails and limbs here and there, but, you know, maybe detention or something like that. And besides, Skune seems pretty, is almost too overly apologetic about this. I mean, wouldn't he not be pissed a little bit at Kumu because of this? If anything, Skune seems more mad at Mocha than anything in this episode. From the very beginning, which is kind of how this whole mess started. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it looks. Pretty bad, isn't it? I'll come back to this scene later, because again, it's gonna be worth mentioning. I don't understand. I don't know if it's just the logic of the show or armed with this. So hang on, wait a minute. I'll wrap this up quickly, then I'll say my piece again. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll play through the credits anyway, because I remember liking the credits. Also, again, don't pay too much attention to what happens in the credits anyway. Nothing really... If anything, it's more spoilers for what happens in a few episodes' time, but again, you don't really need to like pay attention to all that too much. In a way. So anyway, what I was about to say was that, again, sometimes I don't know quite what is the plot. Sometimes I have a difficulty working out exactly what I think I technically don't like about certain parts of this show. For example, again, I have problems with like dialogue and how everything has to be explained to the audience. I don't really like shows that do that. In fact, very few of them work, and whether or not there are really shows that are really limited in dialogue to begin with, I would probably have chosen those purely if it was meant to be as like a visual sort of experience. Now, the next thing I kind of wanted to ask. So after apparently just only sparing Kurumu's life from Mocha, she then decides to go after him and starts blaming Skune because she, even after being at Mocha's mercy, Skune spared. Is that how it is in real life? No, actually, that's retarded. That's ridiculous. I was about to say, you know, armed with this new information about women, I think I've got to start, you know, casting my net in a slightly different direction. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I would advise that. So, yeah. It's kind of, it's not as good as the first episode, and curiously enough, I couldn't help but feel as if, like, there were very few people in this episode. I mean, there's Skune, Mocha, Kumu, Nekonome, Miss Nekonome, but then again, she's really only in the episode for, like, one scene, and everything else is just background material. So really, there's only really 3 characters in this episode. That's kind of really, really strange. I've never noticed that before, but that's very, very strange. Even in the first episode, technically we kind of, like, got quite a number of characters, because we kind of had to be, like, introduced. So Skune, Mocha, Saizo Komiya, Miss Nekonome, Skune's parents. How many anime can really say that both parents are alive in this? That's kind of a little bit of a rarity, but then again, they play so little a factor in this show, so it is what it is, unfortunately. And I think that's just about everything I've got to say at this point. If I had anything else to say, then I'd be really beginning to drag this out, so I think we're just going to about wrap it up in a nice little bow here. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was episode 2. Not as good as the first, and again, problems really do begin to persist. I don't think it's too much of a problem in the next episode, and maybe that I know there are very certain episodes that I'm kind of like dreading watching again because of my problems in how this narrative is supposed to work. But I'll explain all of this, the obvious things, I suppose, in future episodes, because there's going to be some backstory to those episodes. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I hope to see all of you guys again tomorrow night for episode 3. Take care. Bye-bye for now. Just bring it.